Welcome to the Weighing In podcast. We've got a special guest, longtime friend of mine, the All-American Brian Stann. My man, you've been doing a lot of good things as soon as you left the sport. As soon as you left the commentary desk, the sport, everything, you've been doing great things. So, I mean, let's go ahead and just jump right into that. Let's talk about that. I don't want to take up too much of your time. It is kind of late tonight. I know we both got kids and we're running around. We got a lot of things going on. And I heard Mama Stan is gone, so you're holding down the house, huh, with all the kids this week.
Amen. It's so funny. We're old now, right? We're talking about all the stuff we have to do as travel sport dads. But yeah, look, man, it was, leaving the UFC was really hard because they were great to me. When I was an analyst and I was calling fights, it was a tremendous job. I loved it. But there was just the biggest thing with a lot of kids is you're gone every weekend.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing for me to come to grips with is, hey, I'm going to be a dad that's going to, I'm going to miss those recitals. I'm going to miss those cheer competitions. There's going to be times where, I got to miss homecoming. I got to miss prom because I'm calling a big fight. And that's a hard thing to come to terms with. And so, the other piece of it too was the desire to want to lead and run something. And that was a big urge for me. And so, went back to school, got an executive MBA and had the opportunity to study overseas. I studied in Hong Kong and Israel, which was really unique, especially studying in Israel. And, went to work for a company called Cerberus Capital Management, which is a large private equity firm out of New York, running one of their portfolio companies, and did that for 4 years. We were really successful and then had this really unique opportunity to jump into a CEO role running the largest military housing provider, which is what I'm still doing now at Hunt Military Communities. And, we've got a portfolio of over 60,000 homes and, we build communities, we manage communities, we maintain communities. And most importantly, we take care of over 150,000 service members and their families in these communities every single day.
Are these active? Are these active service members or veterans also included?
Yeah, these are active duty service members. These are families that are on base. And the really cool thing is, in my company, I've got about 1,400 employees. Last year alone, I hired over 100 military veterans and 100 military spouses into the company, which is just, so it's awesome. The mission is incredible, right? And the people that I work with care so deeply about the men and women who serve in those families. And so it's a really, really unique and challenging company to run, and just a really cool thing. I love what I do now.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but like as soon as I retired, I was 39 when I retired, about to turn 40. And I was like, if I retire at 38, I could try to join the military. And then I went and actually talked to someone there, like, nope, you just missed the deadline. I guess 38's the deadline, I guess, apparently, because I always wanted to join the military, never did. Fighting kind of caught me. And leaving school, wrestling in school, and then coming out, and then obviously I got signed to the UFC when she's 22 years old, I think. So, yeah. And then that happened and just the rest is history, man. I was like, oh, I'll just do it at the end.
I remember, I forget, it was one of the first UFC DVDs I bought. I had to buy all of them because when I was active in the Marine Corps, I had no coaches. Yeah. So like I would watch the behind the scenes on the old DVDs to see like how people were holding pads so that I could like learn moves. And I remember in one of those fights, they talked about how you almost wanted to go into the Air Force to be a pilot. Yeah. And so I wondered if you had gotten recruited by the Air Force Academy to wrestle there out of high school and maybe decide to fight anyways. But you mentioned that. I never told you that, but I remember seeing, I think it was the Hermes Franca fight, if I had to guess.
Yeah. So I was wrestling at North Idaho College, which is like one of the top JUCO colleges in the country. Wrestled there, came down to wrestle in California, a couple colleges there that I was looking at. And then just all of a sudden, the UFC got a call. I actually fought on Sean Shelby's show in Hawaii, Shogun. And I was like, if this doesn't work out, I know Dana's going to be there. UFC is going to be there. Joe Silva was there. And literally met in the Ala Moana hotel lobby with Dana White after that fight. He's like, I'm going to sign you. He's like this. And that's when I decided to put school aside, stop wrestling, and just focus on strictly training at AKA. And getting my work in. And BJ was already, I believe, signed to the UFC or was about to be signed. So he was my training partner, and I had some other guys. Bob Cook had already fought in the UFC. He was my manager / coach. I mean, we had it all kind of at AK in the beginning. It was a small little group, but yeah, I always had the desire to join the military, and then like I said, I tried. But now I live in Texas now. And so now I'm potentially, thinking about doing PD work here. So that's kind of been on my mind a little bit here. So
Really?
that takes up a lot of time as well. But,
Oh yeah.
obviously it's definitely, I love the community that we live in here. I live in North Texas. I'm above Dallas, about 30, 40 minutes, and small little town, and great community, great schools, great sports programs, everything for the kids. So we started looking to leave California about, right around COVID. It just started getting insane, and it was time to check out.
Yeah.
So
That's a great area. That's probably near Plano.
yeah, we're north of Plano, about 10, 15 minutes.
It's a beautiful area, man. I built an office building there way back when I was with a company called Med Assets, when I was just coming into the UFC. And I didn't really have skills back then. I just had an urge to fight. And so I couldn't trust all my income to be coming from fighting. So I was still holding down a full-time job at the time. But yeah, that's an awesome area.
Yeah, it's been nice. I mean, it's just been great for the kids. Sense of community. Like these kids, I would never let my kid walk to school, back in California. And that's nothing against California. Just simply put, it just wasn't safe in some of the areas. And we lived in a nice area, a very nice area. I wouldn't trust, between the school, it wouldn't be a quarter mile. It could be 200-300 yards. You'd have a couple homeless encampments just on the way. So I would never let it happen. So here, kids are walking home, kids are riding their bikes, kids are playing baseball in the cul-de-sacs. I mean, they're playing football on the lawns out front. I mean, it's fun. It's been definitely a different lifestyle for my kids. That's the biggest reason why we moved. But you have 5 girls.
Yeah.
A lot of estrogen running through that house. You and the dog are the only males in the house, from what I understand.
That's all I got, man. It's a journey, and we've got 2. My wife's oldest and my oldest are both going off to college in a year, and that's just it's an incredible time period of life to kind of see through their eyes. It's different than when you and I were looking at college. It's gotten so competitive.
Yeah.
It's a unique and interesting experience, man.
Yeah. I wanted to talk with you mainly. I know that I could get you on here and talk about fighting all day long. I know we could, bust each other's balls about, the length of when we fought and all these things. But I mainly wanted to get you on here because you see a lot of top tier fighters that have retired, have been, removed from the game for a little while, and also ones that are just barely removing themselves. Guys like BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar's just leaving, Dustin Poirier just left. You got Justin Gaethje saying that he's pretty much on his last fight, 1 or 2, maybe more. That Max Holloway getting a little bit older, those kind of things. Guys are going to start leaving the sport here. And I know a lot of them have left before, but what were some of the difficulties that you had when you decided to retire? And when was that? Did you know that you were thinking like, hey, this is kind of my time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I planned on, in my head, it was, hey, 2026 or 2016 should be the time that I retire. I thought, okay, you're going to go for about 3 more years and then we'll parlay into broadcasting. And I knew when I lost to Vanderlei in Japan, I was done. I was very frustrated with the sport at that time, and some of the policies and some of the things from a drug testing perspective that I felt were holding the sport back.
Like how so? Can you explain or elaborate a
little
bit?
Yeah. I mean, when I fought Chael, he was allowed to use testosterone in the state of Texas, right? Which is crazy, right? Yeah. Chael teases me now, like he'll apologize. Hey, sorry, I cheated, right? And it's arguable that he even look with his skill set. It was arguable that he even needed to beat me, right?
Yeah.
But, there were just aspects of the sport where, I was frustrated. I think we could both tell, at 2013, before USADA came in, there were a lot of things in the sport that don't exist today. And I knew I was never going to be willing to go that route. I was never going to compromise myself. And so if I can't compete in today's UFC and I'm losing to guys who are over the hill, and getting knocked out, then I really need to think about my future and, the long-term, head trauma that you can take in this sport, knowing that, look, I played football from Pop Warner all the way through college. And then, was in combat with a couple of explosions. And so I knew that night that I was done, and it was really hard. And the one thing that helped me was when I left the military to fight, so much of me felt like I was giving up my identity when I was taking off that uniform. And that's the same thing athletes go through as well. When we finish doing our sport and it's our time, we feel like that is our identity. And I had this great mentor when I was fighting named John Bardis, who's very popular in the wrestling community. He always warned me, even at the height of my fighting career, he's like, Brian, remember, fighting is just something you do. It's not who you are. Remember that. And that took some time. And I think having television and immediately going and calling fights and calling college football, I was very lucky. That helped me really focus on a new challenge and a new art to learn how to do that on TV. And it took my mind away and the hurt and the pain from like no longer being able to fight. And John Anik and I probably sat down with Sean Shelby and Joe Silva for at least 3 years plotting my comeback fight. Like we had different opponents. I mean, it was going to happen. And then luckily it never did. But like we talked about it for years. And so I think that helped with my transition. And, you know, that's not the same. I mean, these other fighters don't get that. No. One day you are the man in that octagon with a feeling that you can't replicate anywhere. When you win in there, there's no feeling like it. And then when you leave, you're searching for things in life that could fill that. And it's just never going to come. You have to be mentally prepared to walk away from that and be able to pour your focus into something new.
What was it that made, what was that focus for you? Was it just going back to get your MBA at Northwestern? Was it the kids, the family, the understanding that I need to be a provider? You know, because there's a lot of things that are in limbo when even if you're an analyst, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, look, in the sale and the purchase, you know, going to CBS, going to Paramount, like all these things, going to ESPN, they have their own analysts, they have their own people that they work with. You don't know, that's not really job security either. And that's what gets a little shaky there.
You're absolutely right. I had what happened for me was after that fight, before I announced my retirement, I linked up with Jay Glazer, your friend and my great friend. Jay's one of my best friends. I linked up with his agent, who was a legitimate television agent, and he watched some of my clips. He said, listen, Brian, you've got a real future in this. You can do this. And at the time, I was just doing desk shows. Like I wasn't calling fights. I wasn't doing anything. And before I announced my retirement, he said, look, I got a buddy at Fox Sports South who owes me a favor. And they've already auditioned 7 guys for the ACC college football package at Fox South, but they're going to give you a shot. Brian, I just want you to get the experience of auditioning. And I'd never called a football game in my life, and I had 2 days to prepare for it. And I went in, auditioned. 2 days later, they called me, you got the gig. Right. And so, and some of that, honestly, Josh, is that all these guys that auditioned for it were previous NFL players. They were financially set, right? Mm-hmm. Retiring fighters, most of us are not financially set. Like we're hungry. The 2 days I had to prep, like I knew every system those coaches ran. I knew the players. I knew their stories. Like I was prepared to go in there and nail this audition. I was hungry. And that was a new challenge. And right after I got that, I announced my retirement, and out of nowhere, before the college football season started, the UFC called and said, hey, we got a pay-per-view in Rio de Janeiro. Joe Rogan will no longer go to Brazil. We got a hunch you're going to be good at this. Will you do it? It's in like 10 days.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I go down to Rio, call a fight, and loved it. And then I went off and did a whole football season. And that, trying to describe what's happening and why it's happening on camera to people watching live was a totally new challenge for me. And that really helped. Like trying to get really good at that really helped me with my transition. And I think about these fighters, you know, who are on the cusp of retiring and not having something like that. It reminds me, it is so similar when service members leave the military in the thousands. They really struggle in those first few years. I mean, I built a nonprofit off just helping that population try to transition and find their next mission. And it is hard.
Yeah, it's not easy. I got to be honest with you. Like I've found myself like I own gyms, but they pretty much are self-sufficient. They run themselves. I mean, I own UFC gyms in California, but I've got a whole crew of people that run them. So I'm literally like, I have businesses that I'm doing. I'm doing the podcast. I'm doing extra time on it now. Big John left the show to go back to refereeing. So like it's me trying to pick up the slack here and carry the weight. But it's really about like how do you not get bored throughout the rest of the day? Like you've got to stay focused and keep building something else. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm like, okay, look, I can only do the podcast so many times before people get tired of hearing my voice. And then I think to myself, what else can I do? Because you know us, right? It was a routine. I don't know how you're obviously the military is a routine. Fighting to me was a routine. It's that 9 a.m. training or 10 a.m. training, and then again back at 5, get your morning run in or your evening cardio and lift in. You had a routine. That's
Yeah.
all gone. And I think that's what a lot of military guys, they miss that routine. Get up early, whatever, breakfast, make
Everything's dictated to
yeah.
you, right? And now all of a sudden you got to go. The hardest thing service members have, and this is similar to fighters, right? You build more skills than you realize you build, right? Like fighters have to manage their own brand. They got to manage their own company. They're the product, right? They're the CEO of their own product. And there's a lot of skills and things you build in that if you were to sit down in a job interview to get hired, you'd have a really hard time delivering your value proposition to that potential employer. Military, my first resume was awful. Like it looked like I was trying to be an assassin. Like someone just completely scrapped it, right? Similar with a fighter. And I think that, what I would say, so many of the fighters that get to the highest level have incredible character traits in the ability to absorb new information, learn it, practice it, and then go execute on that information in a live kinetic scenario in front of the world is very similar to what I ask my employees to do. Whether it's, hey, how do you decide what a home needs done to it in between residents living there using this piece of technology that's going to guide you through the process? You can give me Justin Gaethje. I guarantee you I can teach him how to work that system, do that job, and create value for an employer. And so I think the biggest thing that fighters deal with is, number one, they start to doubt themselves. They compartmentalize their skills and say, hey, this is what I am, and this is all I can be. So trying to do something new is just not in the cards for me. That's bullshit, right? The power of self-belief is just absolutely incredible. And I think fighters need to believe in themselves, and they need to be prepared to sit down and think about, what do I want to do? And how am I going to invest all this great energy and focus that I have into those goals? Write those goals down, start reading and picking up new skills. And here's the beauty. Like I spent $250,000 on an MBA. You don't need to do that anymore.
No.
All of these major MBA programs, like let's say you want to take a class on finance, you can go pay $5,000 for 2 weeks and go study at Harvard.
Yeah.
Right. You could pay $10,000 and go study for 2 weeks at Kellogg, where I studied, and just go study marketing or one aspect of it. You don't need 2 years and pick up new skills. And so I think as a community, us fighters are way more talented than we give ourselves credit for, especially when it comes to the character traits. Because as you know, Josh, there's no more humbling sport in the world than this one.
Absolutely.
Right? And you're willing to learn and you're willing to be coached. And that's one of the biggest issues supervisors have right now with employees is people have a hard time taking feedback. Well, fighters, we're built for it.
Yep.
I mean, not only do we get it from our coaches, you after a fight's over, you open up your social media and boy, do you get a lot of feedback there too.
Oh yeah. You get a lot of those couch warriors trying to tell you what you should have done.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. It's a process, man. I've tried to explain to people that, fighters in a way to explain it is we're addicts. We literally were addicted to a sport, especially those top athletes. They didn't get there by just doing it half-ass. They did it because they were addicted to the love of it. And you just got to find that other thing that you can be addicted to, because like you said, if you sat me down and tried to show me about how you're building your company as a CEO, and you said, hey, I want you to just focus on this. Let me show you how to do it. Brian, you could probably in 2-3 weeks, I could be doing exactly that and run it the way you want it ran. And because that's what we do. We take instruction very well, fighters do. And they can just, once they're fully committed, they're all in. I think, even for myself, it's hard to open up a book and go, okay, where do I begin?
Yeah.
because our whole life has been scripted for us. We've from wrestling camps to, to soccer camps to whatever sports camps. It's all been okay. Look, you show up at this time. Okay. You run through coaching and you learn, you absorb it, and then you go out there and apply it. And that's what we need someone like you or somebody, as a leader to show us, hey, give us direction. I think right from the get go. And then once that happens, let them run
Yeah.
because their ideas will flow. Like a lot of these fighters are extremely smart, and when they get done, they're just a little lost, not knowing because nothing's scripted for them.
Yeah. I think that's, in other professional sports, they've got these players associations, not necessarily unions, but they do all the collective bargaining for them. But they do a lot of this work when athletes transition out of the sport. They've got a lot of mentors. They've got a lot of people that walk that path before them that also played in that sport that do that. Fighting is such an individual sport that we don't have it, right? There's not a lot of resources. And the people you tend to go to, a lot of people from your background might go to like a Daniel Cormier. Well, Daniel's running an enterprise that's based on his unique individual talents. It's really hard for Daniel to say, well, hey, we'll just do what I'm doing. Well, people can't, Daniel. That's why, similar to a Michael Strahan, like you can't say be like Michael Strahan, right? It's just such a unique talent. And so I agree. I think that it would be a really cool thing for fighters. I think the resources are out there, but the first thing starts with self-belief and understanding that, look, when you leave that sport and you leave kind of the attention and the fame, none of that defines you, right? And just because you leave and you lose your Twitter followers and people aren't asking for pictures or autographs anymore, it doesn't diminish the value of what you did and what you accomplished. But it's easier said than done. It's a process that we all have to go through to leave it behind. And as we see, man, how many of these fighters are still going back into the ring over and over again for a payday and just getting laid out and taking the trauma. That breaks my heart every time I see it.
Yeah, I thought about doing a comeback. There was talk between Nate's manager and my manager just recently to do a boxing match. And I was like, and then I saw my buddy Luke, he lost to Darren Till out there in the UK. And I thought to myself, nah, I don't have a desire anymore. It's not what I want to do anymore. I mean, it sounds fun. Like get back into the gym, get training, get back in shape, give yourself that push, that drive. But I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
It's not worth it, man. And I'll tell you, especially when you start having kids, I don't think Luke has any, but
no,
I still think that Luke's on my list of despite having been a UFC champion, I don't think people truly understand just how good he was because some of his best years were in Strikeforce fighting absolute monsters who were also in their prime, right? He was fighting Jacare in his prime, Tim Kennedy in his prime, beating guys. But I hate seeing him getting laid out again. It's just like, man, Luke is really talented.
40 years old, though. This is what to be expected. That's that age.
Yeah.
I walked away at 30, 38, and then I had my last fight at 38. I basically announced retirement at 39, so I wanted to switch you up on this, though, because I got a couple more minutes with you. What's your take on the Paramount CBS deal? Surprise, not surprise, good for the fighters. I think it's going to be fantastic for the fighters, obviously great for the promotion. But what's your take?
My take is regardless of what platform they were going to distribute their content on, I was surprised it was one. I honestly thought that it was going to be some type of similar to the NFL. And I think eventually it will be, right? They're going to maximize, and that's their job, right? Their job at the head of the UFC is to maximize shareholder value now being part of a publicly traded enterprise. And so that clearly Paramount paid up to do it and bring it all in one place. I think it's a great thing for the sport. I think it's great because you're going to get more eyeballs because it's not as expensive to watch. I do think obviously anytime you can increase the top line of your revenue the way they did, going from what the ESPN deal was now over $1 billion. Look, I think it is good for the fighters. And, I think it'll be better for the fighters. There will be some type of fighters association that is effective someday. Maybe it never happens because it never manifested itself in boxing. But I just see that the UFC and TKO are building such a massive, massive enterprise that boxing never, in my eyes, consistently reached the same level as a Major League Baseball or an NBA, the major sports that people are going to watch multiple times a week or multiple times a month. I think the UFC is going to get there because the sport is so unique and the sport is so good. And then I think at some point it's just inevitable, right? There's going to be regulatory pressure. There's going to be public pressure. There's going to be pressure from within these fighters. And, I don't think that when they get to a certain point, I don't put it past them to be reasonable and say, look, we get it. We're going to have to do some type of collective bargaining agreement for the fighters. And that'll bring their compensation even further up than it already is. I mean, I look at what some of these guys are making now. It's way more than I was making.
This is true. I'm
right?
jealous. I'm extremely jealous.
I get excited for him. When I see a kid on the main card that I've never heard of and he made $150K to show and another $50K to win, man, good for you. Put it away. Go invest it smartly. I'm all for it. I was fighting for 15K. So
no, I know.
Good for them.
I try to explain to people when I fought Eves, that should have been for the lightweight title. I made $8,000. It was supposed to be for 8 and 8, and I lost, so I made $8,000. It's just insane, right? I was ranked number 1 in the world at the time in the lightweight division, and I was making $8,000.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't know, how much money was the UFC making at that point? I'm sure they're making some, but
I think they were hemorrhaging money at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't actually make money until the Ultimate Fighter started. That wasn't until 2006.
Wow.
That was when they did the Spike deal after the Forrest and Stephan Bonner fight and all that. So they didn't start making money till after that. I think it's great to see the CBS and Paramount deal get done. I think moving away from the pay-per-view platform, given that, I don't want to say the economy's not, it's just stagnant right now. And everyone's kind of, penny pinching as much as they can. Moving away from that pay-per-view platform makes it a lot easier for fans to stay involved and feel like the company is invested in them supporting their sport and their fighters. So I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
In terms of athletes having, a fighters association, I think one day down the line, possibly, but that can only be said because, like you said, is UFC is always the kind of lean towards making it like the NFL and making it like Major League Baseball. So they're going to eventually get too much pressure and they're going to have a individually owned. So you have promoters that they didn't want that to happen because then that's less money for them, more money they got to put into these things. So I can see where you went with that. What's your take? Are you getting, the last question I want to get you on is the class action lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing any money from that?
Yeah, I think we all are, right? I don't think I'm getting a ton of money from it, but I think, look, it's really interesting and it'll be interesting really in the aftermath, right? It's a huge win for that law firm, right? It's a huge win for those fighters. But as fighters are a really fickle group. And so to see what happens after that and, how they choose to go about the next steps, right? Because you mentioned it, you hit on the key. And I think that's been the real talk within, the people involved in the class actions. Hey, wait a minute. The UFC owns these belts, right? It's not the sport that owns the belts and they promote the fighters towards the belt, but they own these belts and their brand has really become synonymous with the sport when the sport's mixed martial arts. It's not Ultimate Fighting, right? Yeah. And so that'll be really interesting. And I think that those are going to be points that continue to get discussed. And I think that, it won't surprise me if Dana and the executives at TKO are sitting down saying to themselves, look, we can only put this off for so long. At some point, this is going to continue to mount. And hopefully, right, I'd love to see a share of the rights, the content rights deal go towards the fighters. I think that would be a huge thing for the sport. I think it would really help with what I see as fighters pushes so many fighters to fight way past their prime. As you know, when you're young in your career, it is really hard to save. And then you get to the point in your career where you can save and you're making the maximum amount of money, but you're also fighting the best, you're taking the most damage, and that window closes so quickly.
Yeah, that's
right. So it's a balance. I think that they've done a great job increasing fighter pay, to date. With this new deal, I really hope that they look at this and I think I hope that could happen for those athletes.
I hope so too, as well. I think if they wait too long before they let the fighters either make a union or something along those lines, or fighters association, something along those lines, or it help them make more money, set something aside for them after retirement, like you can pay into it or something, or it comes out of your purse as well, and then the promotion matches it. If they wait too long, they could end up in a position like the NC2A, where all of a sudden now it's like the wild, wild west with the NIL money. It's freaking
Yeah.
crazy what's going on right now. And I'm
It's
all in support of these guys making a killing, but it's just crazy. It's insane.
I'd look, what I'd love to see happen, and I don't, I don't look and bifurcate the books. Like I could go look up the publicly, filed documents in the SEC for TKO Holdings, but I don't know what the books are. But it would be really cool, similar to when the UFC and Lorenzo Fertitta decided to do the drug testing program. Right, there were rumblings and there was some pressure coming. There are people asking questions, but Lorenzo had the foresight to say, you know what? No, we're going to turn this into a positive. We're going to go get, because he actually called me, Forrest Griffin, and Matt Hughes to be on a panel to select who was going to do it. And I introduced USADA to him. And Lorenzo had the foresight to say, you know what? We're going to come out with the best program in all of sports. And they do. There's no better drug testing program in any professional sport than the UFC has. I would love, how cool would it be if like a year from now, the UFC just had the foresight to say, you know what? This train's coming. Why allow us to be forced to do it? We're fighting this Muhammad Ali act, and there's going to be, then what next? They're going to have to fight. They're going to have to lobby. And, you get a new presidential administration in, and maybe they're not as favorable to it. Who knows? But what if they had and said, look, we've got a plan. We can't do the same percentages that the NBA or the NFL have because we're still investing in ourselves. But here's a tiered plan over the next 10 years on how we plan to get it there and have a publicly shared revenue share with our athletes that we could be really proud of. Man, I mean, for fans at home, for fighters, for young people who want to do this sport, imagine what that does to elevate the brand of the UFC.
Huge. No, it's huge. When fighters give their blood, sweat, and tears inside that cage, they want to feel like they're going to be taken care of after, and I agree with you. I've always said this. People are like, they should be paying 30, 40, 50%. I said, yeah, but in baby steps. They're at like 17%, I think right now, or 16%. Get them to that revenue share of say like 21. And then let's go ahead and just work on it. And I agree with you. If you lay out a plan, I think if the UFC was to lay out a plan to the fighters and to whatever Congress or to the government, be like, hey, this is where we're headed, this is our idea. I think that will also help them right the ship on boxing now that they have Zuffa boxing trying to get off the ground. Hey, this is why if we can build boxing to be this, like we can build MMA to be this, now we can try to build boxing that way also, because right now boxing's been a shit show. Like nothing is going, fighters are there's no help for them afterwards.
I certainly don't watch it. And it's interesting because, when I was out of the military and I was, working to build this organization to help transitioning service members, one of the things we recognized was the greatest recruiter of new enlistees were veterans. If people looked at the brand of America's Warriors as prestigious, then people wanted to enlist. When that brand gets reduced and people don't look at it, as prestigious, then young men and women aren't going to enlist. And I think that's a similar thing, with our sport, right? We see some of our friends and colleagues who have now, it took them a long time to finally retire, and they're struggling, right? They're having a hard time. Football had that happen when CTE was first coming out. Football was in a crisis, and they had to do a lot of work to make sure that moms didn't just stop Pop Warner football completely. And they implemented how to tackle all these things. I don't want to see that happen to our sport. I don't want our sport to become a cautionary tale because we're getting head too much and the retired fighters are really struggling and we're all poor and we're a cautionary tale. And then young men and the greatest athletes in the world don't want to do it anymore. And I don't think that's happening right now, but that's what I would hate to see happen. And I think I hope that the sport will have the foresight and the athletes will have, it's hard to say the camaraderie because it's an individual sport, but the reasonableness to maybe get some of that moving forward.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, I lied. This is my last question. White House. Tell me about it. What do you think? Who would you want to see headline that White House card?
Who would I want to see? For me, my favorite fighter right now is Max Holloway. And I'd love to see him headline it. And for a lot of reasons that, fathers can appreciate. I see a man out there who just gets it, right? He's not in it for the fame and the social media. He's had his belts, his legacy solidified. You know, every time Max Holloway fights, man, he opens up his chest and he shows you what's inside. And I've now, in my current, you know, being a normal person, you know, I hear these employees. I've got a, you know, big contingent of employees in Hawaii, lots of friends who watch the sport. When they leave a Max Holloway fight, they leave inspired. Like they want to go be better at what it is they do that day after they watch a Max fight. And I just think he's so American. He's just awesome. So he's got my vote. And I know that that's maybe not the popular one, but that's who I'd love to see headline the White House card.
You must have been listening to the pod, man, because I said Max versus Conor in a rematch for the BMF title. It's a main event. There's a
serious?
Title, yeah.
Here I am thinking I had an original thought here.
No. That was my pick. Like if you're gonna have Conor on there, he's probably gonna be the main event. You know, and I think you back them up with John Jones and Poatan. I think that's your main and your co-main. You know, I mean, obviously, I think if you could fit a third title fight on there, I would have her, Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes. What's more American than a two-time Olympic gold medalist in judo, a PFL champion, a UFC champion against who is considered to be the best female fighter ever in Amanda Nunes? That's how I would lay out that card, and then everyone else you try to put on the best fight you possibly can.
Those two ladies could headline that card too.
Absolutely, they could.
They get headline. Those two are so good, and it would be intriguing. I you know, with everything that happened, you know, with Arthur Jones, I don't know if the timing's right for John, but you know, there was a very short window of time where I knew John well, meaning like I got my butt kicked by him every day in New Mexico, and it's so funny. Like if you're Poatan and that fight actually comes up, don't piss him off, right? Like. That's, you know, like you want the version of John that might go out and party the night before the fight. Like you don't want the mad one, right? Because he's a horrific matchup for Poatan. I don't care how old he is, right? Like John can take down anything with 4 legs, in my opinion, let alone 2 legs.
DC pissed him off, and he was still out partying the night before. So I don't know.
DC did really. He still has DC pissed too.
Oh man, it's great. Hey Brian, I want to thank you, man, so much for your time. It's great talking to
Josh,
you. I'm jealous. You still have a better jawline than me, and I'm kind of jealous.
Josh, before you wrap, can I just get 2 members, 1 and 2 quick questions, 30 seconds or so? Zeke662 asked Brian, how good did it feel ruining George Santiago's little winning streak? That was a great fight. UFC was really high on George, and you put a stop to that.
You know, it did feel, that was one of my most favorite wins, but it wasn't because of beating George. It was more, the UFC didn't realize they booked me to fight on Memorial Day. And so, you know, for me, I was still processing a lot, you know, as a younger man, and there was nothing more I wanted to do on Memorial Day than fight. And like, they let me do it and they paid me to do it. Like that poor guy didn't have a chance that night. He's, you know, have a good relationship with him now. He's a great coach, but that was an incredible night, man.
And then last one here from Alejandro Gutierrez. He says, thank you for everything you've done inside and outside the cage. He hopes to see you, Anik, Weidman, Chael at the post-fight show for the UFC White House. And he asks, can you share what rituals you have pre-fight and post-fight to recover? And what's your best and toughest moment from your career inside and outside the cage?
Oh, so my best way to recover, I'll tell you what, I wasn't good at recovery when I fought. You know, I think it was just go 100 miles an hour until 4 days before the fight, then kind of slow down. I would say after fights, what I did do well was I would put a ton of ice on my head just due to the head trauma, and the head response. Swelling in your brain responds really well to ice. So I would do that just because my fighting style lended itself to getting hit in the head a lot. So I've got no reach and a really big head. So that was all part of it. I think, you know, the toughest part of my fighting career, there's a number of them. You know, I think I go back a lot to when I was fighting Phil Davis. I was still pretty green in the sport, and his skill set was a nightmare for mine. And there was a time in the second round when I was flopping around on the ground, like trying to get out from underneath him, where I realized, you know, I'm not getting out. Like this dude's going to keep me here as much as he wants and feed me his elbows. And there's no way in hell I'm going to let him sneak in a choke or an arm bar or anything. I'm going to take every bit of it. And maybe I get lucky and I break his hands off my head, and that gives me an opportunity to win. And I told him after the fight, I said, Phil, If it was 10 rounds, I'd have had your ass in the 7th. And he looked at me like I was insane. And I said, I'm telling you, you would have broken your hands eventually on me. And he just had to go.
That's great. All right, my man. I appreciate you so much for coming on. Thanks for the time. And hey, good luck with the 5 girls in the house, and mama's gone. So holding it down. And I saw your dog walking around in the back.
Oh, yeah.
So,
He's patrolling for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for joining us, bud. Talk soon.
Take care, man.
All right, guys, that's our man, Brian Stann, the All-American. Man, it was great talking to him. It's been a long time. I get a little jealous. His jawline's better than mine these days. He's also a lot more muscular than I am, and so he's probably still hitting the weights. But it was great to have him on, man. It was really nice to finally catch up with him again. Like, I wanted to tell the story about when him and I know we had met in passing a couple times, but it was when the UFC had bought Strikeforce, and they had flown us all out to Vegas to do this whole, like, I think it was like a summit thing. It was called the Summit, where they just kind of went over the rules and what was going on, how to promote yourselves. And I had an opportunity to hang out with him, and it was the first time I ever met him. And I was up at the Mandalay Bay, and we were at the pool, and he's like offered to buy me a drink and this and that. And I was like, most of the time when you come over from one company to another, a little bit of that bitterness, I think, kind of fighters, but we weren't in the same weight class. There was never our paths were never going to cross, but he was extremely nice. Just a great guy, man. You can tell just by the conversation we had right there. It just felt like we didn't miss a beat, man. It was great to talk to him, good to catch up with him, and awesome, man. Great person. All right, let's go ahead and talk. I wanted to talk a little bit about this weekend's not pay-per-view, but this weekend's fight card. But also, too, I want you guys to become a premium member of you got me all, of WeWantPicks.com/offer. Use that link down below in the descriptions. And look, this is not a betting site. What this is this gives you the analytics to fighting. So this will tell you how many takedowns a fighter shoots in a round, how many times they get takedowns, how many significant strikes they land, their takedown defense. It'll give you a full breakdown if you guys join through our link down below. It's WeWantPicks.com/offer. You can also use the promo code. Our promo code is ANDSTILL. So go ahead and check that out. I'm just telling you, it gives you the analytics. There's also some professional bettors that are on there, and they actually do some tutorials on why they did this, why they picked that fighter, why they lean this way. So that gives you a little bit more insight. So you're not just listening to me and getting all your bets wrong. They actually give you real knowledge that you can use to make your bets better. So, and also they don't really care who you use to bet. It just that link gets you the information you need to make your bets properly. So check that out. You want to go ahead and just talk about the card?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, we'll just talk about a couple of these fights here. Charles Oliveira versus Matisse Gamrot. This is obviously Gamrot is a last-minute replacement. Coming up on 3 weeks, I think, is in this fight. He is somebody that this is somebody that he wanted this fight. He was begging for this fight, talked about it on social media. This was the fight that he feels like he can win. I think because he saw Arman Tsarukyan get the win against Charles Oliveira. And Gamrot's got a win over Tsarukyan. I think he believes that he could potentially do the same exact thing to Charles Oliveira. My problem with this is that a lot of people are writing Charles Oliveira off. Let's not forget, on the ground, Arman Tsarukyan was defending submission after submission and was able to finally get out of him and get himself to positions where he could survive the rest of the round. He had some great moments on the feet, Arman did. He had some great moments on the ground. He did some work, but Charles, to me, still has what it takes to beat guys like Gamrot. Gamrot just needs to get over that hump. This would be potentially him getting over that hump. But I don't know if he has all the tools to survive Charles Oliveira. So if I'm leaning towards one person, I'm leaning towards Charles. Is it too quick of a turnaround after his loss to Ilia Topuria? That's to be seen. We don't know. I think in this fight, Charles is the better striker. That's hands down. He's the better submission guy, hands down. His wrestling, obviously, Gamrot is the better wrestler. But I look at all the other things that Gamrot brings to the table. Can he avoid submissions? He sometimes, and a lot of times, actually gets rocked. He's a little chinny. Not saying he's like knocked out chinny, but he does get a little chinny when he's on the feet. He's able to get caught several times. He's been rocked, hurt several times. So I look at Charles and all the things that other fighters have said. Charles doesn't look like he hits hard, but he hits hard. So, it really depends on how much weight you want to put on the fact that he's coming up short against Ilia Topuria in that fight. But let's not forget who Ilia Topuria is. He's a very fluid boxer, someone that moves his head off the center line, someone that counters very well, is able to slide in and out of positions and land his combinations and get out without being hit himself. Very talented fighter. Gamrot is not the same type of fighter as Ilia Topuria. Nowhere near. In terms of the wrestling, he's a better wrestler than Charles Oliveira. Can he control that top position? Can he do work from the top without getting caught in the submission? I mean, we've seen top level wrestlers have success, but as the fight goes on in a 5-round fight, can Gamrot keep wrestling, keep avoiding the submissions for the full 5 rounds? And coming off of, this only being a 3-week notice fight. Sure, Gamrot is, I'm sure, always training. He's always in the gym. He's probably always not far from his fight shape. That's fine. 3 weeks also, too, there's less stress. I speak from experience when I tell you guys, sometimes when you're taking a fight on short notice, you don't have time to mess around. You don't have time to concern yourself with, am I going to be in good enough shape? You know that whatever you walk in there with, that's what you walk in there with. I have no other options. Those are my options, are to push as hard as I can, to work as hard as I can every single day, eat the proper stuff, get the extra mile in, do all of those things without burning yourself out because you have such a short period of time. Gamrot's going to walk in there going, look, I took this fight on short notice. I really have nothing to lose. Everyone expects Charles Oliveira to beat me. I can relax. I can fight the fight that I want and get after him, wrestle, grind on him, hold him down, Dagestani handcuffed him, try and do what I can to avoid these submissions and avoid getting tagged on the feet. So I am still going to lean towards Charles Oliveira based on the fact that just the level of competition that he's fought. He's fought all of the best fighters in the world, 45, 55. Charles Oliveira's fought them all. Not one thing that that Gamrot has that Charles hasn't seen. So when I finally am wrapping up on this fight, I think Charles Oliveira, I could see him finishing him by KO, or I could see him finishing him by submission. But I do not think this fight's going to go the distance. I think someone's going to get finished. I'm going to lean towards Charles finishing Gamrot in this fight. Big step up in competition for Gamrot. I got a lot of respect for him on taking the fight on short notice, on pushing to get this fight on short notice, making it very public on social media, like, hey, I want that fight, letting the UFC know that he's pushing for that fight, letting Charles Oliveira know that's the fight I want. Why are you not signing the paper? Why are you saying no? Or why are you hesitating? I want this fight. I'm ready to fight. Main event. Like, it just makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. So next fight. Can you pull that one up for me there, Dave? Sorry, I had it on something. Oh, Montel Jackson and Davison Figueiredo. Great fight, man. A fantastic fight. Figgy is just having to figure out where he's at in his life, though. Like, does he want to keep pushing? Does he want to keep making this a run towards the title? This is one of those fights that I feel like he needs to learn. He needs to separate himself from guys in like the Montel Jackson stages of their career. Like Montel Jackson trying to make that run up towards the top, trying to make the run into that top 5, top 6. And this is where Figgy's got to say, hey, look, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm still here to fight. I'm still the person that's going to make that push towards the title. I just got to get myself settled in here at the bantamweight division. So I think that Montel Jackson has all the tools and the weapons to beat Figgy, but I think it really just relies more on Figgy. Because when I'm taking a look at Figgy, for me, it comes down to that Figgy just needs to be, I don't want to say he needs to be motivated. He needs to be somebody that is focused on what the goal is. Okay, the goal is to either am I taking him down or am I keeping this standing? Stick with your game plan until it doesn't work anymore and then make the adjustments inside. He has a tendency to, not a tendency, he was able to get away with being a weight bully at 125, being the bigger fighter, also very explosive, very good on the ground, started developing his wrestling skills a lot more, had big power in his hands. But now at bantamweight, he's a normal size. He can't be a weight bully anymore. And he's still not a small guy at bantamweight. So Montel Jackson, I think, it poses some threats to him, but I look at Figgy and I think, hey, if you're focused and you come out there with a game plan and stick to it, I think it's going to be very hard for Montel Jackson to get that win over Figgy. So let's go Vicente Luque versus Joel Alvarez. This fight to me is, man, it's one of those fights where I feel like they are really trying to build Joel Alvarez, and I understand why. He's tall, long, lanky, keeps the fight on the feet, very talented, very good striker. And with Vicente Luque, like, he looks good, doesn't look good, looks good, doesn't look good. He just kind of has his he's getting a little bit older in the tooth. It's a little bit harder for him to keep these fights on the feet. He's got some wins in terms of his submissions. He's got great hands, great boxing. He's gotten away from the kicks. You'll see that sometimes with fighters as they get a little bit older, they start to kind of get away from the kicking. You saw it with Jose Aldo. You saw it with some other guys that have fought throughout their careers. But I look at Vicente. Let me see. Let me pull up Vicente right here. With Vicente, he's got a loss to Kevin Holland. He beat Garimbo. He lost to Joaquin Buckley. He beat Dos Anjos. He lost to Jeff Neal, Bilal Muhammad. Bilal went on to be the champion. Then he had wins over Michael Chiesa, Tyron Woodley, Randy Brown, Nico Price, all of that. So, but coming off the loss, by Anaconda choke to Kevin Holland, like, he's kind of put himself in that position to be kind of used now as like a stepping stone, a gatekeeper somewhere along the line. I think the UFC sees the potential in Joel Alvarez, and I think that's what they're looking to try to do. So I think those are the guys. Like, Joel Alvarez has been that person that they've kind of wanted to make a push towards. We're coming off of this big weekend for the pay-per-view. So obviously, as you all know, the cards after a pay-per-view weekend are pretty light in terms of big name value. So is there anybody in there that has any questions about this card? Dave?
Oh, there's no questions in the chat now.
Gotcha.
No
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, realistically, like, there's a lot of good fights on here. You got Mario Patino, undefeated fighter, and you got Renato Dinez, like, should be an action-packed fight. You come all the way down here too, and you've got Petrino versus Peterson. That should be a good fight as well. Just kind of keep an eye out for some of these fights. And then you get all the way down to Muhammad Usman. If he comes in shape, big power, those kind of things, versus Walter Walker, fantastic fighter, Johnny Walker's brother. I just kind of breaking down the fact that, like, Johnny Walker and Muhammad Usman, that should be a very powerful fight. Does Walker get the submission? Because Usman is going to try to keep this thing on the feet, use his power. Can he avoid takedowns? Can he avoid the size of Usman? And can he put pressure on? It's going to be one of those type of fights. So, I mean, that's pretty much going to wrap up our talk on this UFC card. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more, though, about fights that potentially could happen, like the aftermath. Oh, do you want to talk about this?
No, you go.
Okay. I want to talk about the aftermath of the UFC 320. And basically, the conversation that I'm hearing all around is that it's pretty much going to be like a Alex Pereira and John Jones situation leading up to the potential White House card. I know there's been a lot of talk about the White House card, but I just talked to Brian Stann about it. Reason being I want to get information not information, but I want to talk a little bit about that is because in an ideal world, right? Like, you have Khamzat Chimaev calling out Alex Pereira. Like, I want that fight. And then Alex makes it very public. I'm only looking for super fights. Who do you consider a super fight? The super fight, if he wants to go to heavyweight, there's only one super fight for him. And I love Tom Aspinall, and I've always liked Tom Aspinall in terms of being a heavyweight fighter. I've always liked him. Even when he first came in the UFC, like, again, this kid is good. He's talented. He moves like a lightweight. He's explosive. He's fast, all of these things. But with Alex, there's only one guy at the heavyweight division that you could see him fight, and that would be John Jones. Now, that being said, I think there was something that was brought up today, and texting a little bit back and forth with Chael Sonnen, and actually talking with him a little bit, and him basically saying, like, the fight that I think is really going to happen is that John Jones is going to make the weight at 205, and he's going to fight Alex for the 205-pound weight class champ. So he's going to fight for that title, I think, at 205. That puts away the idea that Alex needs to go to heavyweight. And I think it really wraps up if Alex can beat John Jones at 205, the weight that John Jones had defended his title for however many years and hadn't lost and has never lost at 205 outside of the Matt Hamill situation. I think that right there is a fight that you could potentially see headline the UFC White House card. That is a huge fight. The whole Hamzat situation, I like what he's doing. He's keeping the buzz going. He understands that Alex is a star. Hamzat himself is a star. I don't think that Dana's going to allow that to happen right now. I don't think that's a fight. I think he knows that he's 38 years old. Alex is. I've got to get as much out of him as I possibly can. And the best way to get that out of him is him not losing to a wrestler from 185 pounds coming up to 205. The best way to get it out of him is to fight Jon Jones at 205 for the title. That just makes sense. Alex doesn't have to go up. John's got to probably lose a couple LBs, but I think he can do it. I think motivation for him is the Alex fight definitely is more favorable to him. Alex's wrestling is nowhere near John's wrestling. Both about the same age. And I think John, feels like, hey, we're both physically very similar in height. John's obviously got the longer reach at 84 inches, which is unheard of. But at 205, this could be one of those fights that I could see headlining the White House card. Now, I know we keep talking about the White House card because there's so much speculation on, hey, this fight could happen. I just talked to Brian. I thought maybe the Conor and the Max Holloway fight could be the main event. I could see the Jon Jones and Alex Pereira fight being the main event. But Alex has a tendency to be an active fighter. And him being an active fighter, can he wait that long? Will he wait that long? I think for the Jon Jones fight, he'll wait that long. And in the meantime, the 205-pound division needs to settle itself. It needs to figure out who will potentially be next to fight for the title after the Jon Jones and Alex fight. And then, because if you think about it, right, Alex has kind of beat everyone in that mix. You have Ankalaev, who can fight whoever else is left in there. You've got Olberg, who could potentially fight Alex, but I don't know if the UFC is going to take that chance and lose the Jon Jones fight. So there's a lot of things that you could do in the aftermath of UFC 320 with that main event status. So, and then in terms
no one agrees with you on Jon Jones going back to light heavyweight.
What's that?
No one agrees with you that Jon Jones goes back to 205.
Oh, you don't think so?
Nobody agrees with you.
Wow, nobody.
Yeah.
That's rough. You guys are cutting me deep here. I would be willing to bet that it will be at 205. I'd be pretty willing to bet. The reason being is I don't think John, how are you going to have that fight at heavyweight? It will not be for a title. And if we're just talking super fights, the UFC would like to put a stamp on it with the title. And if you wanted to make it feel more important, you have to have a title on the line. And I know that Jon Jones doesn't care about fucking titles. He's got like 15 of them in his locker. He's like, they're probably just in his closet, put away.
Yeah, but wouldn't you just give Alex the chance to go up and
he wouldn't fight for the title?
Wouldn't you give Alex a chance to go up and fight Tom before then and then hope Alex wins? And if he doesn't, then you've got your Tom Jones.
No way. Like Alex is not beaten. I maybe potentially could catch him on the way in. I just think athleticism, speed, younger. What is Tom, like 28?
28 something. Yeah.
28 years old, man. Like it's just different times of their career. Like Alex said, I'm looking for super fights. A super fight would be Jon Jones.
Sorry, Tom's 32.
Oh, 32. Okay. So he's man, I felt like he was younger.
Yeah, no.
But still 32 years old in his prime. He wasted a year of his prime waiting for the Jon Jones fight. Almost as long as Michael Chandler. So I look at where John is at in his career. I think John does come back down to 205. I think you have John and you have Tom and you have Alex Pereira at 205. Because if you bring him up to heavyweight and you bring Alex up and he fights Tom and he doesn't win, now you've lost the steam of this super fight. So, or you can have them fight at heavyweight, which is fine for no title. I just think that if you don't put a title on it, it doesn't have the same feel going into the fight. It's a huge fight. Everyone loves Alex. Everybody loves Jon Jones. They love his fighting style. I'm not saying not everyone loves Jon Jones, but they love him as a fighter. He's obviously, a lot of people think he's the GOAT. A lot of people think he's the greatest fighter of all time. But I think it'll also mean more if Alex is able to beat Jon Jones at 205, who everyone considers to be the number one, the greatest fighter of all time. What better way to test it? than the tested at 205, where they both one was a champion and one was the longest reigning champion there.
Zeke662 asked a question. He says, what 3 wrestlers would Alex have success against? Hamzat, Tom, or John Jones? But he says what 3, so I'm not quite sure.
Those are the 3 wrestlers.
Yeah, but like what he said, what 3 would he have success against?
Oh, which one of the 3? I think is what he.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, which one? I would say probably John. John's 38 years old. The wrestling is not as easy at 38 years old. But the thing with John is that he's also very tricky with his wrestling. He's not going to just shoot a double leg, and he may, but I'm saying he's got little trips and foot sweeps and all those things that he does against everybody. You know, Tom may have. I think Tom, in terms of his success in wrestling, I think he'll have some success based on the fact that his physical size. Even Dana talked about it the other day. He's like, until you stand next to Tom Aspinall, you don't realize he's fucking enormous. He's enormous. He's huge. You know, and you mix that with his athleticism and his mobility and his all of those things. I mean, like, it's huge. So that to me is one of those like it doesn't make any sense for him to fight Tom Aspinall. I know it's for the 3rd title. I want to see that fight, but I just think if Alex had to pick, fight Tom Aspinall for the 3rd title and try to become the first person to ever win 3 titles in the UFC, or fight John Jones, I think for sure the title doesn't mean as much to him because he's already cemented his legacy. He's been a 2-division champion. I know having the 3rd would cement it even more, but beating John Jones at 205, the weight class that he ruled for however many times, is more, I think, would be more important than winning that 3rd title. Beating the guy who everyone considers to be the GOAT in the sport, I think, is more important than having that 3rd title. You don't think so?
I mean,
Dave's like, I don't know.
My opinion doesn't matter.
If we're not talking WWE belts, Dave's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What else you got for me?
Yeah. Alejandro Gutierrez asked, can we have a poll who has the best chin here? And then we ran a poll and Brian beat you by 80-20.
Yeah. I know you guys hate me. Yeah. You guys are just jealous. When I clean up, I still look young. I look good.
Zeke662 asks or says, damn, Josh, share Brian with us. I think that was as you were trying to wrap the show and I had to cut you off and say, let's get these questions in.
Yeah.
So we got them, Zeke. We got you guys. Don't worry.
Gotcha. I also want to talk. Go ahead. Is there anyone else?
Yeah. So the Conor McGregor thing, Zeke asks about it. But I do want to, since we're on the topic, Alejandro Gutierrez asks, super fight has to be Tom Aspinall versus John or Tom Britain, John US for Independence Day. They might do first Paramount fight, Tom v Alex, Kayla v Amanda.
See, I do agree with you on if it's at the White House, you have John Jones versus Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title. I could see that. But John's also made it pretty clear. He's like, I'm looking for the fights that interest me. That's why I believe that him going back down to 205, that would suck for him probably a little bit. But I think the motivation is there to say like, hey, like you've won all these titles, you know, whether it be 85 and 205, but I'm still the king at 205, and to fight Alex, who everyone loves, you know, I think that's a big fight. That's a huge fight. That would do really well. That would do huge numbers, especially on CBS, which is where they're talking about it being. So, I don't know. I think outside of that, I don't think there's any other fights for him. You could do the Olberg fight, which I don't think is nothing. I don't think Alex has the desire to do that fight. He's like, I'm looking for super fights. The John Jones fight at 205 or the John Jones fight at heavyweight with no title. That doesn't make any sense. You know, especially if that fight's at the June 14th at the White House. Tom Aspinall and John, that makes sense. It's for the title. But John literally left the sport to not fight Tom Aspinall. So what makes you think he's going to come back? Just the White House card? Is it just being at the White House going to make him come back for?
Well, he's already made that very clear, though, because he's argued, like, he's said, like, I'm willing to, like, this is a big deal to me and it's something worth coming back for. So it sounds like yes is the answer to that.
Okay. I guess we're going to see. I mean, but if you're the UFC, as a promoter, what are you looking to do? As a promoter, I'm taking the biggest name fight I could possibly give John Jones if he's going to return for this White House card. And I have him fight Alex at 205 as the main event. And then do you put Conor as the co-main? That's a rough one. Or do you put Conor at the top? And if you put Conor at the top, it's got to be against somebody that has a title. He doesn't have a title. It's got to be Max Holloway. That's it. It's BMF title. That's the only thing I can see. Like, how do you have a title fight below them if it's going to be Conor at the top?
But at this point, could you justify? I mean, because you're not trying to sell a gate, I guess, right? So could you just have Conor second or third down behind the title?
I mean, you could. Yeah, you could. I mean, he's still like, you got to be honest.
And then the show's it's gonna be on ABC, right?
CBS.
CBS, so it's gonna be a free fight card. Yeah. So you're not trying to sell anything really. So you don't necessarily need Conor. Like you're basically just trying to sell sponsorships to cover the purses, right?
No, I understand that. I do get it, but I'm just saying he's still the biggest draw, unless I be honest, unless Habib came back, like
that's what I'm saying though, is like draw. What does draw mean when you don't need the draw?
I mean, they still need the draw. The numbers, you want the numbers to be huge.
Yeah, but you're doing a UFC on the White House lawn.
Yeah. You think everyone's just gonna tune in? You don't think
I think the whole world's gonna tune in?
You think the whole world's gonna tune in?
Yeah, the whole world. On CBS, I mean,
what is that in the UK? You're from Scotland. What's that in the UK? Is that just like Sky
channel?
TV channel?
I don't know. It'd probably be, I mean, it could be like BBC or something. I have no idea. But I would like, maybe they'll stream that. Maybe all the overseas, the UFC app, Fight Pass or something, will stream it. I don't know. Sky Sports, yeah, something like that.
Interesting. I get what you're saying. Would Conor want to be on there still if he wasn't the main event? I'm sure he would. He's asking for $100 million. I don't know if that's not going to happen.
I mean, when the fighter comes to you and says this is the fight, this is a card he's returning for, like, you have the leverage, right? Like Dana stopped chasing Conor a couple of years ago, and then Conor kind of faded into the abyss, and now he's saying he's coming back for it. And so I think like the ball's in Dana's court to like write a refusal.
Yeah. But he's also made it clear that that Conor is reliable. I mean, he wasn't extremely reliable during the Michael Chandler situation, but I think we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. He wasn't as reliable.
Yeah, so let's look at that then, the Conor, because people are starting to get on your case about not covering this yet. Conor,
not covering what, this yet?
Yeah, because you're talking about Conor in the White House, but they're saying he's suspended. So yeah, he did get the 18-month suspension. It started as of September last year, so that technically expires before the White House card, a couple of months before it.
Yep, sure does. It's perfect timing. He also put out a text basically saying, I think he put out it on Twitter, he put it out somewhere, it's basically saying he's stepping away from social media. And what's your, like, Dave's over here shaking his head. Talk to me.
Well, that somebody sent a meme in the group chat. Maybe it was you or George or somebody, but somebody sent a meme. It was like the guys cleaning the snow off the football field, and it was like Conor McGregor before the press conference.
It was the BKFC press conference.
Yeah. And I'm shaking my head because like it's brutal to watch it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of speculation going around that he's taking some time away to spend some time to get refocused. Whatever that means, you guys can come to your own conclusions on that. But he's taking a step away from social media. He's taking a step away from all that and trying to refocus himself, whether it's on family, whether it's on training, whether it's on just trying to get his life together. But I think this was part of the suspension was known obviously by the UFC for a long time. It's just been announced, so they knew that he was unavailable for the whereabouts failure for the anti-doping. They knew about that. They just kept it quiet, but they also wanted to release it when his suspension would be up, so people could understand that he will probably be fighting on the White House card. It's gonna be a huge card. He will probably, I think, he'll end up main eventing it, and it just makes sense. It's one of those. I don't know. There's just talk that he is stepping away and submitting himself to be alone for a little bit, and whatever that means. And getting himself right. And that's part of the agreement to have him on this card. So whatever that agreement is it just comes down to him making sure that he is fully ready to jump into training camp, fully ready for this fight, physically, mentally, all of those things. I think we saw a side of Conor at the press conference for BKFC where he just said like it kind of broke him. The popularity, all of those things broke him. I think you see it in him right now a little bit. What is he, 38 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You see it in him. You see his face. He looks older. All those things. Like you can tell he just hasn't been taking care of his body. He just physically looks a little bit older. I think that the reality is set in. Like he's got one more left in him. This is it. It's all or nothing. This is the moment. You've got to make life changes. He's been through a fucking whirlwind this last 2-3 years. Just, all things that he brought upon himself, but it's something he needs to clean up. So whatever that is, I don't know what that is, but he's got to get it figured out. I really don't know how to feel about it because you've been through a lot. You've done a lot to your family. You've done a lot to your kids. The internet lives forever, and it's a shitty situation, I think, to be in. You brought it upon yourself. Now, how can you get people to forget? Look, other professional athletes have cheated on their wives. Other professional athletes have done atrocious things, and some of them been able to survive. They've been able to come back and become loved again. I think everyone deserves a second chance. I mean, this guy here, though, it's been 2, 3, 4, 5 chances. So, and it's been public. It's been very public across the board, from hitting an old man at a bar to, the dick pics, literally, everything. It's okay. How many times are you going to burn the bridge where people stop giving you chances? So, we're going to find out. Hopefully we see a different Conor coming up in the January, February time and getting ready for that White House card. But I honestly believe that you're going to have, it's going to be Conor versus either Max, or it's going to be John Jones versus Alex. Those are the fights I think to make. I'd like to see probably if Amanda Nunes can wait that long and Kayla Harrison can wait that long, you probably see that on that card as well. So though between those 3 fights, somewhere in that mix. So what else you got for me there?
Mid-Junior, sorry. I think it's be a fun one to wrap up on for you. Sean Strickland calling out the American Chimaev, Anthony Hernandez, because he wants to prove that he's ready for Chimaev. So this will be a fun fight. I just want to get your take. Does Sean even, stand a chance here? Does he get smothered, KO'd, or does he get past Fluffy?
Can I hear this audio? Is there audio to it?
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna have to refresh it just to get to the start of it.
He wanted to fight you, but do you just not see the upside? I mean, he fought him.
Dude, he's coming off losses, man.
Let's restart.
Be done in December and eligible to fight next year.
It's more, what do they call, man? I don't want Izzy. I'm not gonna fight Izzy. It's just, I think it's an easier fight for me. But I want to fight that little Chechen whore. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want to fight somebody like Fluffy. Fluffy puts me in title contention, especially with him, because all he does, he's like the American he's like the American Chimaev. So you go and I just out wrestle that fucker for 5 rounds, and then it's all right, fuck you, whore. Go beat your cans, and then let me know when you're ready. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more fights that put me back in title contention.
Yeah, as he said, he was moving on from you. He wanted to fight you, but do you just not see the upside? I mean, he fought him.
Dude, he's coming off losses, man. I think Izzy just, go paint your fucking nails, pet your dog, go be a superstar. I want to fight Chimaev. And, a lot of it, I feel almost like a personal vendetta because I'm the only fucking one that beat Chimaev. Mm-hmm. And then, again, Chimaev knows this, his camp knows this, everybody fucking knows this, dude. I'm the only one that fucking beat you. I've wrestled with all the guys that he's going to fight, and he's just going to fucking steamroll.
And you did.
Wow. Those are strong words from Strickland, man. I've beaten Chimaev, this and that. We're talking about practice, though. Come on, we're talking about practice. Allen Iverson talked about it. We're talking about practice, really? The Fluffy fight. I mean, I get it. I'm not mad at it. I understand why he doesn't want to fight Izzy again. I get that. I understand, like, why does he want to fight Drickus?
Fought him twice.
Yeah, what's the explanation behind? Did he fight Drickus twice? I thought he only fought him once. He fought Izzy.
He lost the title to him, then got the rematch.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, and then you have Nasruddin Imavov. You've got De Ridder. I mean, there's fights in there for you. I like the Fluffy fight. I think that's a good fight. I think Fluffy probably doesn't mind it either. That's one of those fights. I think that's. I don't want to say it's not an easy fight for Fluffy, but it's a good fight. His submission, his grappling. He's not a great wrestler, but he's got good stand up. His timing on the wrestling is good. Sean's hard to take down, and Sean's hard to hold down. On the feet, Fluffy's not out of his realm. Like he can stand with Sean. And I think the gas tank, the push, all of those things. Sean normally comes in pretty good shape. But what you've seen from Sean lately is he can't make adjustments throughout the fight. If it doesn't start going his way, he can't make little tweaks here and there. And not having Eric Nixick in his corner, because they've talked about him not being in the corner anymore. And so what changes will Sean be making? Who will be giving him advice? Will Sean even listen to it? So Fluffy, though, coming off the injury, was supposed to fight De Ridder. And coming up, like De Ridder's coming, I think De Ridder's fighting what, next week? 2 weeks? Something like that. I think he's fighting not Arnold Allen, Brendan Allen. So I think that's in 2 weeks. That's right before the next pay-per-view. But good fight. I think Sean is coming off the suspension, probably chomping at the bit, ready to get back in there. The Fluffy fight sounds good. I'll take that fight. Not a big deal. That's a good fight. What else you got for me, buddy?
We'll wrap there.
All right, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. We had Brian Stann on. Make sure you guys check out that interview that started the show off. And it was great to have Brian on, man. Great to catch up with him. I am jealous. He got a better jawline than me. He's got more muscles than me, too. And he probably got a bigger pocketbook than me, too, because he's a CEO. So that's a big deal. So all the things that I wanted to talk to him about was mainly just about life after fighting. I think you'll find that, from guys like BJ Penn to Frankie Edgar to Dustin Poirier, you see a lot of these guys leaving the sport, and just wanted to kind of get a feel on what it was like for him leaving the sport. Emotionally, what did he have to go through? All of those things. These are all things that can be frustrating for athletes, not just fighters, for all athletes. Jay Glazer, who Brian Stann brought up during his conversation, was Jay Glazer does a thing called merging vets and players called MVP, and where they merge vets and they merge up with players, and it's like veterans, military veterans, and you got former athletes. They all merge together and they just talk about all the problems that they're having in their life, after leaving the sport or after leaving the military. And it's a very tough thing to deal with. And and so like they put together groups, and they all sit together and they talk and they do a workout together. And I've been able to kind of work out and lead that group as well with Jay one time at one of his facilities at Unbreakable in Hollywood there. And yeah, man, it's a great program, but just wanted to talk and bring more light to it, because there's a lot of fighters that are going through a lot of stuff after they retire. There's a lot of things that athletes, not just fighters, but athletes deal with after this. So it's something that we definitely got to keep an eye on and keep working towards trying to see what we could do more. What could we do more of for these athletes once they're done with the sport? So hope you guys enjoyed this show, and I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, hit that bell for the notifications, based on the fact that I've been doing more lives. We're gonna be trying to do more lives on Mondays. Next Monday is a holiday, so I think we'll probably try to pass on that one, but we will do our Tuesday night live. And I'll be at a wedding as well for somebody who most of you guys know, former UFC champions, getting married on Sunday. So I'm going to be there for that. And I will get to you guys next week. Looking forward to talking to you guys after our Saturday night fights. So we'll talk to you then. And as Big John